Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Perfect. So, welcome everybody. Today we are going to speak about shared value through clusters in this case, and we have with us two excellent speakers. Thank you very much, Alberto Pecci from Axio for joining us, and Xavier Amores from the Catalan Water Partnerships. Okay. As you know, we will go through different blocks. The first one will be the conceptual framework, and after that, I will give the word to all the attendants to share, comment, and contribute with your views. Okay, so thank you, and Alberto, I will give you now the presentation rights, and you can go on. Floor is yours.
Okay. One moment. Try to share my presentation. Good morning, everybody. Sorry, one moment, because I have a lot of windows right now. Can you
Perfect.
see my presentation?
Now it's
okay.
Perfect.
So wonderful. Good morning to everybody. I think, well, I have 10-15 minutes, Antonio. I will try to go rather quickly, and then maybe we can wrap up in the discussion after that. So the concept of share value. Sorry, it's not trying to move can you?
You are no. You were saying very well. No, you don't need to move anything from our.
No, but I want to move the slide forward.
Ah, sorry.
And it doesn't work. So that
perhaps you need to select the program.
How can I do it, Antonio? Because with the normal arrow is not working. So
perhaps you need to choose the program, the screen. Click over the screen first. Click and try now, please.
No.
No.
So
escape the escape. Try to escape the screen.
Okay. Pantalla. Compartir. Okay. Yeah, but now it doesn't go forward, and I don't know why.
Yes, but try to escape the presentation mode to the normal mode. Escape the screen. Push the keyboard, the key. I don't know in English the name. In your keyboard, press escape.
Yeah, the escape. But okay. One moment. I don't know why it doesn't work. Yeah. Can you reading? Are you seeing it?
No. Now you are not sharing your screen. What you can do if you want is to send me I think I have it. No, the presentation. Did you send it to me?
Well, there is a new version, but let me check. Let me try again, because sorry. Let me try again. I don't know why. Pantalla. Okay. Compartir.
Si presionas la tecla escape.
Okay. Now are you seeing it?
Yes.
But it's not in presentation mode.
No.
Okay, I will try to the presentation mode again. If it's, I think the problem is, okay. Yes, it seems it works. Sorry about that. I will try to go quick, even quicker. So
Don't
this
worry.
is the. Can you read it now, Antonio?
Yes.
Okay, so I go on. So this is the well, one image from the, not this crisis, but the previous one, the financial crisis of the 2008-11, and this is the lesson with that it will learn. In this case, as all crises, we had a lot of problems, a lot of danger, but also some opportunities. The problem is that I think that the last time in this crisis, we didn't really take advantage of the opportunity. And if we look at the two covers of the Economist that in the middle of this crisis, November 2010 and January 2011, the two big issues that are still on the table of policymakers were already there. So climate change on one hand and inequality on the other. And just 2 months later, the Harvard Business Review published a quite breakthrough article, innovative article by Mike Porter and Mark Kramer. Mike Porter, of course, the person that are connected, almost everybody know him because he also is the father of the concept of clusters. Well, it was this new idea regarding share value. That was totally new. This is an idea that at the beginning was focused especially on innovative way of acting by single company, and not by clusters. But that few years later in TCI, in 2014 edition in Monterrey, Mexico, we put on the table as a main topic of the conference, and then since then also other initiatives like the share value initiative promoted by the same authors, and particularly from Mike Kramer, were launched. But what for the ones that don't know this concept, what Porter and Kramer say what refers to creating share value, and they refers to policies and operating practice, and I will return on these two words, policies and practice, that enhance competitiveness of a company. They talk about companies, not very much about clustering at that moment. That at the same time creating an economic value that is not a revenue, but simultaneously they create social value in the community in which they operate. So creating share value is something that put together on a common ground economic and social value. And this is something that they say, Porter and Kramer, is not something that should be anecdotic, but something that really should be embedded in firm strategy. So I go rather quickly here because the objective is to talk more about creating share value by cluster, but they say that there are three main ways of creating share value. One is to create a new product and markets. Here, for instance, you can refer to some products that are specific for some disadvantaged community, or some project includes in the medical or sanitary domains that are bringing some advantage. Redefining, the second way is redefining the productivity, so being more efficient, creating new business models that also take into account these societal needs. And the last one refers for the first time on clusters. So the building supportive clusters, they say, around the companies. This is again is a vision from the single firm side, not from the cluster, but starting from that, I think we built a bit this theory for cluster. Again, few words again to really make people understand really the essence and the real meaning of the share value. That sometimes is confused with corporate social responsibilities. That is also very good for companies. So the fact that the company invest in redistributing their profits and invest in some philanthropy. Share value is not about that. Share value is a bit to expanding the business and creating this idea of creating value, that this value will be shared between the society and the company of the profit. and the company through profit. In the meantime, also new concepts have appeared that go in this direction, even if they're not sometimes mentioning specifically the term of share value. I am referring to this B Corp movement that you may know, in which since 2008, I believe that there are more than 3,000 companies that have been certified by independent monitor, that are companies that are accomplish some ethical and valuable criteria. Then there is, of course, the very well-known Sustainable Development Goals that from the United Nations Agenda for 2030. That is also most of these objectives are a good framework for creating share value, as you will see. And last but not least, again, the economies that even if not mentioning specifically the term of share value, it's questioning, well, a new role for company. What company are company? What are company for? There was a cover last year. But let's see. So in this context, 2 years ago, together with a colleague, some of you you know well, that with James Wilson, we also make a brief intervention in TCI conference, European TCI conference in Sofia, and it was in this context that I drafted this. Well, these slides, this framework that I think that it's a bit the basis of why cluster and share value have a lot of commonality, and why cluster are the ideal ground for creating share value, or could be an ideal ground here for creating share value, and you will see also in some practical application. I think that both concept refers to, well, are about changing a business model. Both concepts refers to context in which you need a lot of different actors, stakeholders for changing things. A lot of the initiative for improving the competitiveness of cluster are related with the change of business model, with intervention in the business environment, what Porter called the diamond. And at the end, both cluster and share value refers to changing a bit the mindset for company to act and to really have these new ideas, new way of designing the business model for new things. And share value at the end also need all these kind of things, and not and the last but not least also need a lot of visionary leaders, and it's the same at the end that cluster also needs for having this long-term vision, this strategy in the long term. So if we see this is these two concepts that, well, apparently the only thing they have in common is that is the author, no, the Mike Porter. But really, if we look very in deep, more in deep in that, there are really two concepts that are very they have a lot of commonalities, no? So, and a lot of linkages you can. So cluster is also a way to pass from the firm level to the cluster level, and this is something that also we multiply a bit the possibility of creating the share value, because well, of course, clusters is a multiplier in this sense, and also cluster allow to widespread and to include this concept to share value and make it more accessible to SMEs, because if we look at the companies that are currently part of the share value initiative movement, that are flagship company for share value, are all big multinationals. So clusters also it's a way of making this more accessible to SMEs, and also we add to widespread share value at different sectorial level, because as you will see some examples, the example we have, and also I suppose that also Xavier will talk about, are also example of cooperation between different clusters, different sectors. Let me go to the end of my presentation with a concrete example. This is an example that is not new. It's an example of 15 or even more years ago. It's a project that is without any doubt of creating share value, but it's also a project that, at that epoch in 1995, when it was, so we're talking much more, the beginning of the project is 1995. The beginning of cluster policy in Catalonia was also taken as the first case regarding cluster from the Harvard Business School. And this is the case of the Catalan leather industry in Catalonia. This was an industry that is still a lot of very polluting. And when Spain entered the European community, that as was called in the epoch, well, this cluster was very jeopardized in danger of closing, because they're not accomplished with this regulation. And one solution that, after a strategic cluster reflection, was to creating a common water treatment plant. So the 40 companies, so it's a small cluster, the 40 company, and most of them SMEs, almost all SMEs. Compared to the clusters, they decided to do a very important project, which was a very important investment that were more than 10 million euros totally privately financed at that epoch, for creating a water treatment plant altogether, an investment that wouldn't be impossible to do individually. And through this, the cluster now is a very healthy financially. It is exporting 90% of its production, is well positioned in the height and quality products for all the luxury firm. And this is an example also for me of both economic success, because through this initiative, through this investment, the ability of the cluster was assured. So the company create really benefit, benefit for the SMEs and real financial incomes. But at the same time, they change completely the situation, the environmental situation of the community they were facing in Igualada. So this is a combination of social and economic benefits, and it ends up in a project of share value. So here some some ideas of what clusters are important for creating share value. I think, well, I have already repeated it, so I already mentioned it, so I don't want to repeat. The conclusion for me is that very clearly clusters are the ideal ground for creating share value, and how to put it in practice. I think that I retaken a bit the idea I mentioned at the beginning. At the end, creating share value include both policies and operating practice. So for me, a program, an initiative, that really serious initiative, that and consistent initiative that wanted to create share value in a territory should have these two dimensions. In Catalonia, we start operating like this because we are introducing initiative measure of creating share value at policy level. For instance, share value will be one of the key drivers of the new smart specialization strategy in Catalonia. It's at the moment one of the main subjects for industrial policy research. We're working to a report together with Orchestra on sustainable competitiveness. That it's well, the core idea is linked to share value. Also, we linked the creation of share value to our some granting scheme for SMEs in Catalonia regarding clusters also. But also at operational level, there are a lot of initiatives, and I will not enter in detail on this because actually I will do that. We did some pilot project. We have specific training. We are trying to measure the impact of this of share value. That is an important issue to advance on this. And this is, well, a bit the methodology and the different stages since we started in 2017, and now we are in the phase of, well, we have already seen that's some important result from the pilot project, and we are advancing on this on the policy side. That is what I think is also important, that not remain an initiative confined or limited to cluster or to innovation, but it's something that is more transversal, more involving all the programs, all the governments, like the Smart City Edition. And let me end really with this very last slide, in which I think it's I make a wrap up of what I said, and also in the lights also of this of the pandemic crisis we are facing right now. I think that the share value a bit in a way address these two big challenges of our time. So the growing inequality, because it's also creating at the same time also this social value at the same time that it maintain the company viability. It creates bridges between with two important concepts. That one is the social economy, but also another one that is newer and probably not so well known. That is the foundational economy, that a group of economists from the University of Wales is introducing, and not time to go in detail on this. And I think that they also share value. It's facilitating new public-private partnership. That is something very common in cluster, and is very well very much needed in these new phases. So I think that share value is establishing a bit a long-term strategy. It could create a long-term strategy towards a new growth model based on sustainable competitiveness. That is what we are working at the moment. Thank you very much. I don't know how the time, because with this problem at the beginning, I had time to check very much the time when I started. And I am at your disposal for questions.
You are really, really welcome, Alberto. I was looking forward to hear your presentation, and it has been wonderful. Thank you. Xavi, it's your turn. So I will give you the presentation rights.
Okay. Do you see my screen, Antonio?
Yes, we are seeing it. Yes, now it's perfect. Thank you, Xavi.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here today. Thank you very much, Antonio, to invite me. I will talk about how clusters can contribute to the environmental challenge through the creation of share value in a practical point of view, that the point of view of a clustering. I try to explain some kind of examples where I'm working in the last 3-4 years in Catalan Water Partnership, and also I want to introduce also the pilot promoted by the Acció, the government of Catalonia, that Alberto told before me. Well, first of all, we are the cluster of sustainable use of water, and we have the same objective of all the clusters: competitiveness, innovation, business development. Nothing new for all the people who are participating in this webinar today. More or less, we promote 25 projects at this moment, 6 European projects. Normally not this year because it's impossible for the situation of the crisis, but usually we try to promote 5 or 6 international events. For example, last year we stayed in USA, Singapore, South Africa, Colombia. Well, everybody knows water is one of the most important sectors in clean tech area. Probably, as you know, Spain and Catalonia is a leading country in the European Union in water technologies, because in the past, Spain must solve problems related to the scarcity of water much sooner than other countries. So that's made very important improvement, test, new technologies related with the systems of irrigation, sanitation, wastewater, and that's the reason because water is so important in my region. At this moment in the cluster, we are 100 companies. Almost all are small, medium enterprise, but also some big companies, universities, research centers. Well, the same of all the clusters. Water scarcity and water is one of the big challenges, not only in Catalonia and Spain, in all the Mediterranean area, but well, in my case, in Catalonia is one of the big challenges. The increase of desertification by climate change, the important consumption of water for sectors as agriculture, tourism. Well, we have also extreme water-related events as drought or floods and high rainfall variability. The last drought in Catalonia 12 years ago is that it's at the same time that my cluster was created, and I think it's something with a strong relationship. Share value, it's not in my strategic plan or the strategic plan of the cluster. We want to introduce or reinforce the idea of shared value in our new strategic plan. But when we talk about the circular economy, for example, it's so related with a lot of objectives that the shared value idea. No? Also, the cooperation with other clusters that have intensive use of water and have a need of resolve a lot of challenges related with the management of water. In the case of food or agriculture, it's very clear. But it's important also business development, because all the clusters talk about to promote business development, and we have the opportunity to participate in some working groups with CEOs, people who are in charge of business development. And when we talk about share value, sometimes you have the risk only participate people more related with corporate or social responsibility. And it's so important, I think, that the people who are in charge of business development participate in the projects of share value. But what kind of projects? I try to explain three cases. One related with the pollution of nitrates and also the relation with the meat industry sector, who is one of the sectors that generate this pollution, and also the cooperation with the touristic sector. And for me, in my point of view, it's a project related with share value, because we're looking for opportunities for companies. We're also facing challenges related with the environmental. And also, we promote the participation of all the value chain. This kind of complexity, because different interests, competitors, companies who can cooperate, and the cluster is the place where can cooperate to make some kind of solution. So, when Porter and Kramer talked about enabling local cluster development, the usual type of example in this regard refers to how a large multinational helps a group of suppliers, typically in a less developed country. If you read that article, but also in all the studies, corporate websites, resources of share value, the typical example of clusters are how Coca-Cola, how Nestle, how one big company help, I don't know, some cluster, I don't know, in South America, in Africa, in Asia, in a country with less resources. I think it's a maybe my point of view, I don't know if Alberto agree with me or not, but it's maybe a point of view from USA, from Porter, and the idea of the clusters maybe more related with how these big companies participate in clusters. I think in the Europe, where the private and public partnership are more common, the clusters can provide a lot of examples where the clusters could be the leaders of these change, of this promotion of share value. Very short, two examples. The first example is one of the big environmental challenges in my region, contamination by nitrates. Nitrates comes from fertilizers and also animal manure. And meat and pork meat sector is one of the most important clusters in my region. Is the reason why the presence of nitrates is so important in my region. Is the most important diffuse pollution problem in the groundwater of Catalonia, and it's the responsibility of the poor state of 50% of the water bodies in my region. 50% of the groundwater have been declared in bad chemical state in Catalonia. It's really, really, really high. And almost all these bad state are generated by nitrates. This project started as a cooperation between public administration and Catalan Water Partnership, because a lot of municipalities who have the responsibility to resolve this problem need to invest a lot of money in technologies that probably don't know exactly how to run. And it's not easy to make a right decision about what is the best technology for the specific case of each municipality or its contamination of some water that are to manage, not to manage. No. And we create a working group with not only the municipalities and public administrations who has the problem, also with the companies that offer technologies, companies that are competitors, also with research centers, universities, and also companies who manage the distribution of water in the municipalities, or engineering or consultancy companies to help the municipalities to make decisions. A wide range of kind of companies with different interests, but with the objective to create or to make a development of an environmental decision support system that facilitates the decision of the new investments in these municipalities. It's a clear business opportunity for the companies facing a big challenge in an environmental point of view. In order to reach that goal, we analyzed a lot of plans in Catalonia and Europe. We talked with a lot of technicians, companies who are experts in these technologies, and also with the municipalities who manage these plans and have a different point of view sometimes of the companies that offer the technology. And when we have all the results, when we create this tool to help the municipalities, we present in an event with 150 people who are from the municipalities, the people who have the problem, and has the opportunity to facing with some companies can solve it. I think it's a good example of this kind of cooperation. And also, this project is also an opportunity to work as very intensively with the meat industry, one of the clusters that generated that problem. Not only improving the water quality and reduce energy consumption of this process, of the meat industry, also working on how to reduce the pouring volumes and how to improve the treatment process in the manure. The manure, what is the waste that generates this problem, and also we make some kind of dissemination with this sector that help in intensity. For me, it's a kind of project related with the Scherbauer, because it's a cooperation between different stakeholders, competitors, and institutions, and also we use an innovative methodology to facing this challenge. With individual advantage for the company, we have more visibility, market knowledge, we know better the consumer needs and market opportunities, but also share advantage. We share a lot of knowledge. We try to make some kind of visibility that it's impossible that a small company or a company have alone. For us, it's the first project with the participation of all the stakeholders, and also I think we improve the competitiveness of the entities that participate, but also advancing and the environmental conditions. Another similar project, really short example is how to cooperate with the tourism sector. As you know, Spain has in the tourism one of the more important economical sectors. Every year, but not this year, but every year, more or less 80 million people visit Spain in the worst time for the availability of water, because it's in summer. And we work with the sector in their challenge. This is a representation of the challenge of the tourism sector in relation with water management. And we try to make pilot projects with the tourist sector to disseminate and demonstrate that it's possible to reduce the consumption of water and don't lose the quality of the experience that you can provide in the swimming pools, in the spa area, in the gardens, in all you need for the hospitality sector to satisfy the clients. Key examples: 3 European projects or projects funded by Europe or regional, in the cooperation between water cluster and also tourism sector. For example, the Moment is a project more or less 7 million euros budget to prove how it's possible to closing the water cycle in the Mediterranean tourist facilities. All the pilots are developed in a hotel, in a regular hotel in Lloret de Mar, close to Barcelona, one of the most known place for tourists in Catalonia. Another example, water tour, how to use the digital transformation in water to reduce the consumption of water, and also how to generate a tool, a real-time tool that calculate the water footprint in a hotel. It's a way to involve also the clients in this agenda of the sustainability. It's also a good example of how water companies have more opportunities to develop new products, generate new opportunities in markets, test these technologies, prove that it's possible in economical and technical point of view to introduce these technologies. And also it's good for the touristic entities because reduce the consumption of water, and also it's something related with marketing. The green labels are also so important for this sector, and also it's a challenge for cooperation. Hidrosa is the last example of the cooperation in tourism and water sector. We are not the leaders of this project. We participate as one more of the 27 members of this really big project. I think it's one of the big projects of circular economy in the last Horizon 2020 goal, and try to prove how it's possible to close the water loops in the Mediterranean region, in testing in 3 Greek islands, in Tinos, Minos and Lesbos, and prove how it's possible to apply the circular economy in eco resort and in these islands. Well, 2 examples related with the shared value and how the clusters can promote it. My point of view. Move on to the project that Alberto Penzi has introduced before me. This is a pilot project promoted by Acció, by the Competitiveness Promotion Agency of Catalonia. This is a pilot that started with the diffusion, the dissemination of the concept of shared value. Not all the cluster managers and evidently not the companies know exactly what is shared value and what is the difference between shared value and responsible social corporate. And start with this dissemination of the idea. Secondly, Acció promote 2 pilots with packaging cluster and with Catalan Water Partnership, and advance in how to measure the impact of shared value in a cluster, in a company, and make some interview, workshop with companies, and at the end we have an agenda or a portfolio management of projects, innovative projects related with shared value that the clusters could be a leader. That the typical projects not only for one company to promote something that is good for environment. that projects that need this kind of leadership and involve of all the value chain, as Alberto Penzi explained before me. And also Axio started to incentivize the shared value using a positive discrimination in the granting call for competitiveness of clusters in Catalan government. I think it's something good. No? If you believe in shared value as a policymaker, money probably move better sometimes than only the dissemination. No? I think that's really good. And finally, I think it's a good idea to share with us this report. It's a report of an European project. It's a project related on how we can promote innovation policies in the blue bioeconomy in the Mediterranean area. It's a very specific topic, but in this project also the government of Catalonia promote this report. I'm really lucky because I can participate as an expert. I'm also a professor at the university and researcher, and I have the opportunity to participate in this report and cooperate with Alberto Penzi. I can share with us in this link. It's a report who are focused on how well, some initial key ideas on creation of shared value with the contributions in academic, but also is the recap of some examples or policies to support clusters and also programs in which clusters participate and promote projects related with shared value. As you know, maybe the label is new, shared value. Only 10 years ago was created the idea, but a lot of clusters promote projects that could be considered as shared value. In this report, we analyze 25 projects. More of them are funded by INNOSUB call, for example, COSME, that could be considered as shared value. If you are interested, you can find some projects that I think it's interesting in point of view of shared value. Finally, some lessons from clusters and creation of shared value. First of all, in a project point of view, as a cluster manager, sometimes you are the leader of the project. You need the companies, but you are the who start this initiative. I think it's so important to zoom out, to have this kind of holistic vision and the different interests of all the stakeholders. Define very well the scope of the project and how to share information and what information is not possible to share. That's generate a lot of conflict sometimes. It's my experience. And also how the social impacts or environmental impacts could be something that generates more opportunities for the individual companies. Sometimes some companies, the big companies, think it's easy to promote projects alone, but it's important for a cluster to explain how this kind of cooperation generates more value for all the participants. But well, don't forget that business is more important than shared value. When we talk with companies want to be more competitive, want to earn more money, and don't forget that when you are promoting these kind of projects, sometimes you find more barriers in legal. For example, in our case, in water reuse legislation, it's something that it's not easy to do, or it's some kind of barrier to promoting more projects in this area. And sometimes you need to decide what information you need to share with public administration or with private, or with both. And finally, the last slide is how cluster organization can be part of this new idea, shared value. I think few clusters have creation of shared value as a strategic area in their organization, but some clusters promote a lot of projects that could be considered as creation of shared value. especially in clean tech, social, health, kids, or silver sectors, typical sectors where a lot of projects could be considered as creation of shared value. I think it's still not clear how this good practice and projects that some clusters are promoted could be adapted, improved, or transferred to other regions with similar problems. I think even though some organizations such as TCI, or European Conference, or cluster platforms introduced the creation of shared value in the cluster agenda, my point of view, it's not clear how all these examples could be known by clusters and adapted to the reality and specificities. A lot of information is published in webs of projects, but as I explained before, almost all the projects where the academics talk about shared value and clusters is the typical example of big multinational helping a cluster in, I don't know, in a less developed country. Also, KPI is a main point to improve in cluster organizations. Everybody in Catalan Water Partnership is the same, but everybody measures the cluster performance based on number of members, budget increase, projects implemented, or visibility in press, but not in how this creation of shared value projects or initiative impact their community or members. Maybe only clusters in some sectors maybe introduce this area. No? I think it's an opportunity to rethink cluster management. And while improving competitiveness is a priority of the majority of clusters, it's not a core topic in the agenda. And I think clusters can play an important role in offer and demand side. In the first case as the water sector, as supplier of specialized knowledge and solutions. But also you could be a sophisticated client of these solutions. I don't know, for example, food sector or tourism, as I explained before, would be some kind of clusters that promote shared value in a demand side. And finally, I think it's so important this kind of coordination between European policymakers, national, regional level, with the cluster organizations and their agenda. Well, finally, I like to finish to thanking you all for coming and your interest. I hope that presentation has been interesting. Thank you very much.
You are very welcome, and it has been a real master on what can be done. Sorry. So thank you, and I see a lot of questions in the chat, but I invite those that have questions to speak about them. So questions, comments from the attendants for both Alberto and Xavier.
Lucia speaking here, Antonio. Thank you very much, both Alberto and Xavier. Super interesting presentations, and I think also very good inspiration to take upon for the next discussions. For Xavier, I also wrote a question: would it be possible that you give us more concrete example on the social impact? Because I think there is one thing when we're talking about shared value, putting the emphasis very much on the environmental aspects, which are of course key given the Green Deal and the pillar, being one of the most important pillar in the policies, upcoming policies. So, but the social component is how can we, or how can other clusters get inspired from your examples and understand at the level of really, as Alberto explained, the difference between CSR and shared value on the social element. I think that would be very interesting to understand more and to be able to communicate more to the others.
Yeah. I think maybe Alberto can explain better than me, because it's for the kind of cluster we are. Water technologies are very focused in environmental challenge, and sometimes when we talk about the social impact, or we try to promote more projects related with this idea of not only think about environmental, think in social. And part of the projects that the pilot we are working with Axio have also this idea, no? Think out of the box of the typical project of the water sector and how to help other sectors, how to work in a typical challenge in an environmental point of view, and also thinking about social. But it's not easy to make this step. But maybe Alberto, I think in other presentations explained some case of, I don't remember, no, but for example, textile or kids cluster to promote it, projects more related with social idea. No, I think I'm so sorry because it's absolutely true. No? My presentation is so focused on environmental challenge, but don't forget social. No, it's also a very important part of the shared value idea. No? I don't know, Alberto, what do you think?
Well, it is true that until now, the example we have from cluster and also for the type of cluster in Catalonia are more on the environmental side. But I think there are also some example on the more on the improving the well-being of people. So what Lucia were referring. And actually, in the original article from Mike Porter and Mark Kramer, there are some reference to it. For instance, the ShopRite example, that is a chain of a food chain in the US that were opening retails in disadvantaged area, what they call the desert retail area, in which there was very few food chains because is not viable economically. They do it, or for instance, there's some example of companies that are providing healthy food or doing better food for schools. This could be an example. Project that could be related with, for instance, improving the conditions of workers in our companies, such as working with a company for creating a kindergarten that at the same time could improve could reduce the absenteeism and the productivity of work, but at the same time also is addressing a problem. So there is a lot of opportunities also in the I think on this side of creating share value. There is, as a level of company, I think there was an example from not at the level of class, but level of company of Schneider's that have this program for well-being at works worldwide. I can imagine, even if it's still not a reality, but I think I know that are working on it. We have a cluster on mental health in Catalonia that has in the past worked together with other cluster on the fashion industry, for instance, for introducing people with disadvantage in the industry. Here, I think it's also a sphere in which we go very much with an overlapping with sometimes what it's the social economy. That I don't know if quite well-known example of a company in northern Catalonia that is working on the dairy sector, the La Fagera. This is a company that is employing disadvantaged people, and at the same time are making very good yogurts and dairy products that the company is viable economically, so they're producing profits. And for me, even if this is not at the level of cluster, it's an example of share value on the side of the people well-being more than the environment. I think there are examples, but it's true, Lucia, you raise the issue, because it's true that the example that are more evident or that they are more well-known, especially at cluster level, are more on the environmental side.
Because I think it's a great opportunity also with the European Cluster Alliance to scout a bit within the community for such examples and to create a pool of inspiring actions that could be undertaken by clusters in the future to go on this path, and also convince the policymakers to put this on the cluster agenda. I think that's a very big opportunity that clusters should take, following the explanations and the understanding that Alberto you provided. And I think, as you said, training is also one important thing that should be also part of the whole concept of developing and implementing it. Thank you.
Yes, of course. I think that a database of reference initiative regarding creating share value from cluster is not existing at the moment. Even I repeat, in Catalonia, when we started looking at what kind of project could be promoted, the easiest things was to look back and to look at projects that like the ones that Xavier presented, or the ones I referred in Igualada, or for instance, one of the first cooperation initiative we had in this sense, also I forgot to mention, it was the creation of new backpack within the kit cluster from a company that were producing big pack and scholar material, together with an hospital, the Hospital of San Joan de Déu, that is very specialized in kids care. And this is a backpack that was a new product that was produced and self-manufactured, but with a special attention of a problem that have kids with these heavy backpacks, and this, in this case, through a new design, it reduced the impact on children's backbone, or this kind of thing. So this is a product. This product is on the market that is sell. That I don't know. I suppose it's profitable, but at the same time also it's going for a good cause and healthy and trying to reduce some health problem. So I think there is a lot of example. For me, this is a hidden gem in economic development. Is something that needed to be promoted, disseminated, and also at the same time need to be rigorous in what also a big problem is the KPIs, so how to measure really the economic impact. The economic value is easy to measure because you go to the financial statement, but the social value is not that easy. And it is for these reasons that in Catalonia, together with my colleague on responsible for the cluster program, John Martí, is trying to introduce this B Corp methodology that allow a bit also to giving this measure the real in terms of the social impact that have company beyond only the limited economic value. So it's a new field. I think cluster could play an important role. I think we are in a phase in which, there are a few examples. We have some other, I know some other communities have tried in the Basque Country also, they tried to make diffusion of this. Unfortunately, not very much others, at least that I know. And a role for organization like European Cluster Alliance or for TCI is already done a lot on this internationally. It's also to promote it internationally and to create these linkages, because some clusters could have, the important thing is that clusters could have some skills, specific skills that could help another cluster to create share values. That is the example of Catalan Water Partnership and the cluster of meat processing in Novac it's an example of this.
Antonio, if I could come in, because I will need to leave quite soon.
Thank you. Ula, go on, please.
Yeah, no, very interesting. And also, I couldn't follow everything because I had some phone calls in parallel, unfortunately. But I think this shared value concept is something very interesting where we should work more on it. But also, I would really like to see how we can strengthen the links with social economy. It was mentioned before, and also to see how much, for example, social economy enterprises can then be part of creating shared value with clusters. I think if we can find a link how this could be done, I think that would be very interesting, because it would give the whole concept an additional boost. And now, just while talking, I'm thinking we had the presentation of the social economy canvas, and we were looking for a cluster to volunteer to test or to apply the social economy canvas to see whether it could work. So maybe particularly your cluster working on shared value would be best placed to see whether shared value, whether the social economy canvas could be applied. So maybe something to reflect further on, and we could take it further. So if there's an interest, we could maybe continue the discussion on this later on. And I'm sorry, because I have another skills meeting right now, so sorry for that, but definitely let's stay in touch, and thanks for the presentation.
Thanks for your comment, Nuala. Thank you. Yes, it's true that during the presentation of the social economy canvas, it was said that there is an opportunity for some clusters to be in the testing as a prototype of that canvas applied to clusters. So it's open for any cluster interested on that possibility. Thank you. It's time to close. I know, I'm sure that there are a lot of possible new questions. Thank you very much, Alberto, Xavi. I see, Xavi, that you have shared the reference to the report. Thank you very much for that also. And I'm pretty sure that we will come back to you and go deeper in this field, because as Lucia said, yes, we have the opportunity from the European Cluster Alliance to join force with you and promote these ideas. Thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you soon. Especially tomorrow, we will have a very interesting session where André Richier will present the recently published document on the skills for Europe. Okay, so you are invited. I hope to see you tomorrow soon also. And anyway, you are welcome to any other session. Thank you. Have a very good day.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Antonio, for the opportunity. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, Alberto. Gracias. Gracias, Xavi.